All right. Hello, everybody. I'm back on planet Earth. I've been floating around the ocean here for a few days. We did our yacht bot workshop, what we called it. That was pretty cool. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I actually spent the following 2 days with Craig Deswalt's high-end mastermind group. So we spent 2 days at sea on that one. That was pretty cool. I'm loving doing this stuff on the boat. So
I bet.
probably tell. Really cool stuff. But anyway, did anybody have anything you want me to start off with today?
I have a question.
Okay.
Always, always. On the AI spokesperson, when it asks for credits, am I just hitting my credit card again, which I guess is on file?
The credits are actually a different thing. You have to like pre-purchase the credits in
Yeah.
them. So you click on that and then it'll give you choices of like how many credits. You buy them in blocks.
Okay.
So the more you buy, the cheaper they get, but they're really
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, because like when I use the AI spokesperson, sometimes like the last message I got was I need 600 credits.
okay. Yeah, they're very inexpensive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
So
just I just hit the pay button or whatever and I got whatever I needed, but
okay.
I wasn't sure how it worked because like, oh, is it based on either words or letters? Because I noticed that this avatar that I was using for my podcast, Changemaker series, it was a little bit more because there was more verbiage.
Yeah,
Okay.
the credit usage is based on the processing time.
Oh, okay.
So, and there's only a few things where we actually require the credits because it does
I
cost
understand.
on the
Yeah, you had mentioned this
process.
last time. I was just trying to figure out short and sweet or really clarify.
Yeah, some of the stuff like on the transcriptions and the video generations and things like that. And you've got video generation in that
Yeah.
one, AI
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
spokesperson.
Yeah. I
So
love that.
all of those do require the credits, but
Yeah.
like I
No
said,
big deal.
they're
Yeah.
pretty inexpensive and you buy
Yeah,
them.
no, it's easy. Are you kidding? I get this done in 3 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. I
Yeah.
believe also the one where I think it's a book transcription. I think we had to put it in there too because that took a lot of processing
Yeah, I bet.
power.
That's interesting. This is a segue because one of the projects I want to work on with your AI is transcribing a class I created 2 years ago for creating a podcast. And I think it's around 30 minutes. Would I go into AI spokesperson or should I, because you know how you use an avatar for your program?
Yes.
So can I use AI spokesperson? Is that the fastest way to do it or efficient, the most
AI
efficient?
AI spokesperson is more just for little blurb
Okay.
stuff. Like if
Okay.
you want to have a greeter on your website, AI spokesperson's perfect for that.
Okay. Good, good, good.
But if
Okay.
if you want to do like full lessons and training and things like that, it's not quite robust enough for that one. And
Right.
the one that I use personally that I really like is called HeyGen. It's
I mean, again.
Hey, Hey, and then Gen, Gen,
Okay.
like the
Okay.
Hey generator. So it's heygen.com.
Okay.
That's like if you see any of my videos basically that it has
Right.
it's looks like me anyway. Those are all done with HeyGen.
Okay. Okay. All
And
right.
and anybody that's going to use HeyGen, here's a little trick with it. It takes like when you create yourself, it takes a like a 2 or 3 minute video, and you can use Zoom or whatever to record the video, and you just record the video of yourself and whatever background you want, whatever environment. It could be a studio or you can actually get one of those selfie sticks and walk around. Whatever you do there, it's going to create that scene and all the stuff that you
Okay.
use it with. Now,
Okay.
you can create like I think they call them different I forget what they call them. It's different scenes, I think. And you can create multiple. The first one you create isn't going to be very good. it because it's getting to learn you. And
Okay.
I was really disappointed when I made the first one. I'm like, oh man, this is not what I, this is not up
Okay.
to the quality that I really wanted. But
Okay.
then I created another scene and all I did really, I just changed my shirt and I did another 2 minutes. And
Okay.
man, the quality went up
Okay.
dramatically. And
So the first one's kind of like a draft.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And as you do, and you can do some ridiculous amount. It's like a couple hundred different scenes. And,
No.
and then when you go in to generate, you say, I want to generate a video, and then it lets you pick the avatar. And then if you pick your own avatar, then you get to pick the scene. And you can pick like any of those scenes that you've uploaded. That way you can do multiple videos. Now, if you go through my master class that I made on the buying triggers, I did
Yes.
20 videos and I was lazy. I just picked all the same scene.
Yeah, that would be me.
In fact, it looks just exactly like what you're seeing me right now because I had this shirt on and this background. So
Okay.
it's going to look exactly like that.
Okay, cool. All
I
right.
was, I
That's a
was
future project, but I'm on it.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, but anybody that wants to do that, like one of my weaknesses is reading aloud. Like for me to, and I don't know, this goes all the way back to my childhood. Something about that just never clicked. It's like if you want to make me look like a buffoon, just have me read something aloud.
That's
So,
funny.
and I'm really into like engineering words. Like I'll engineer scripts. I do really well at copywriting. So if I engineer the words and then I can't remember them all to read them perfectly and I have to read them aloud, that's not going to go over so well.
Okay.
That's why, like when I do a speech or I speak on stage or whatever, I never go off a script. Like that would be the kiss of death for me.
It's
So
funny.
what I do is I just make a PowerPoint presentation and I put the images in there just strictly to keep me on track.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I know all the points I need to hit and I can just, talk about them and I'm perfectly good with all of that.
Okay.
But with these, like I actually wrote out scripts for each one of these buying triggers and I'm like, man, these are really good. And I went back and I fine-tuned them several times to really make them high impact. And I thought,
So you can edit if so this was in Hey Gen.
yes,
Okay, so if you're not happy with each one, you can go back and edit it.
yes, you can just go back and edit the script. But I had already written the scripts perfectly. My problem was I wasn't going to be able to speak them perfectly because
Right.
I would have had to read the script. So what I did was I just uploaded the script into HN and it reads it off perfectly.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, that's what the spokesperson does. I thought I was going to have to speak, but it doesn't. You just type little words in and my cute little avatar with the purple hair does a great job.
Exactly, exactly. And we had several discussions about this in the bot workshop of should you try and represent yourself or should you have your AI bots be different? And I really think if you're doing a bot, if you're doing a script like what I did with the buying triggers, that's fine. I do think you should tell them that it's not you. I
Yeah.
I just think from an
Yeah.
ethical perspective, you
Yeah.
should tell them. You shouldn't be, deceitful. But on a bot, let's say you put like a bot on your site and you want it to represent you. I don't really know that that's such a good idea. I, I mean, I did a John bot that's inside Quantum, but you guys all know it's not me.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
to further that, I made it look like a cartoon character of me.
Yeah.
You know it's not physically
Yeah.
me. Because if you have a bot that's answering questions that's not based on a script,
Right.
it can, who knows what it's going to say. And it's being portrayed as you.
Yeah.
So I personally don't think that's such a good idea.
Yeah. I
So I
like
think,
the purple haired avatar. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
I've started it. I mean, for me, I mean, Arba knows she calls it my alter ego, but I like it, and I get business off of that purple haired girl.
sure, yeah. I
And I
mean,
mean, she's very professional. You know, she's I just love her, and she speaks properly. And I don't want purple hair, but I want my avatar to have purple hair. And I think if I keep using it, then people will say, "Oh, this is Valerie." This is Valerie's avatar. It's not Valerie.
yeah, yeah. Sue Brook could get away with that because she's had the purple hair for
Yeah,
years.
she's yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves that purple hair.
All right, that's a good question. Now, one more question, and I'll be through with my questions. I noticed on the last avatar that I was doing for a client, I was promoting one of his business expos. So I was putting in his phone number. So you need to put in a dash after all three phone numbers, right? Because otherwise the bot will read 9,229 and then the next uh, seven numbers.
Oh, in your script, yes, yeah,
Yeah. So you have to put it in like a real phone number with dashes.
yeah. You really should spell out the numbers. If you want the bot to read it properly, you should
But
spell.
if it's a phone number, John,
It's the same thing.
okay. Because the first one, I just did dashes between like how we write out phone numbers.
Yeah,
Like 929 dash, and then the next three numbers dash, and then the four numbers.
yeah. And reason being, if there's a lot of cases where the AI isn't perfect.
No, no, no. I know
And
that.
and it might see, like my phone numbers starts with 714 area code. It might look at that and say, it's area code 714.
I know that's kind of what happened
You know, so
the
so what
second time.
so I learned that if it's a number, I'm going to spell it out. Like I'm literally going to spell out 714, and then I'll in the script I'll say, now it's area code 714, and
Okay.
then I'll put a comma so it has a little bit of a pause,
Okay.
and then I'll do, the 968 and then a comma, but spelled out
Okay.
968.
So you're not using a dash, you spell it out and then you use a comma, not a dash. Like,
Yes.
okay.
The other thing too, you have to really kind of think steps ahead when you're writing scripts for AI to turn it into bots because it will mispronounce things.
Oh yeah, I
A
know that. But
perfect example
I,
is when I do act, when I say act, sometimes it will say act, sometimes it'll say ACT,
mhm,
sometimes,
it's funny.
it'll do different things. And then when I say ad agency is AD agency. Well, it'll say ad agency.
I know. I
So I
know.
have to put ADD agency,
Oh, okay.
and then it pronounces it ad agency.
Okay.
So it's just little nuances. You just have to
You
get
learn. Yeah,
familiar.
you learn. That's
Yeah,
why I'm asking these questions.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I
So
will
it's
shut up.
almost you have to write phonetically to get it to speak phonetically. And that's a case of just, learning the tools, learning and understanding the language of the AI. The other thing, now that we're talking about language of AI, the and how important it is to speak the right language to whoever you're trying to communicate with. When you're trying to write prompts and you're trying to communicate with AI, AI's native language is JSON. So if you're speaking English, it's having to convert that English into its native language and then trying to convert it back. And it's difficult for the AI to do that. And that's why you get some stuff that, might not be quite right and it might not understand completely what you want out of it. So it can get kind of frustrating. So what I've done, like I'll use an example of I wanted to get a bot to write like I write. So I couldn't just have it like like read my writing and say, use this writing style. It wasn't working. So what I did was I said, I would like you to read this article and I'd like you to break it into JSON and analyze it in JSON and then turn that article into a template. And then what it did, it took my writing style and turned my writing style into a template. And then I said, now I want you to use that template to write 10 articles with these 10 topics. And now I can get 10 articles written in my writing style, but it's using JSON to form the templates. And I've found that if you communicate with it in that way, you'll get a lot better results out of the AI. So I've been using that a lot with when I'm helping people with their white label to create custom tools in their quantum white labels. That JSON thing has been a real saver. And one of the things, one of the first ones I used it on was the buying trigger. I made the new buying trigger tool in there, and it matches all 20 of the buying triggers in the master class. And this is another lesson for you guys. If you're looking to get people to sign up, if you're looking to lead generate, look at what I did with that buying trigger masterclass. That thing works really, really well. And giving out something that they can get a benefit out of immediately is a really good lead magnet. That and software, and basically that really is software I'm giving out. So software makes a really good lead magnet. If you can create like a GPT and give it to people, give them access, you can put it on a landing page. Like they have to opt in to get access to it, and then it shows up on the thank you page. And they can use the tool on the thank you page. So what I'm doing with the masterclass is I'm taking those 20 buying triggers and I'm giving those all to you for free. Like when you sign up, you get access to all 20 of those. And then at the end of each lesson, and it's really cool because each of the 20 lessons it's under 5 minutes each. So in 5 minutes, you could have a really powerful trigger that you could use right now. You could implement it immediately and get a result in your business. But at the end of it, at the end of each of the sessions, I basically introduce the ACT program. So it's a sales pitch to purchase ACT. That's the whole purpose of me giving it away, is to promote ACT. Because inside ACT, they'd not only learn how to build buying triggers, they'd learn all things they need to know about their marketing from A to Z. And then at the end, I haven't actually done this yet. I'm looking forward to seeing how well this converts. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to send a follow-up after I've created all this goodwill by giving out the 20 different emails, with all the lessons. I'm going to go in with a follow-up email and say, by the way, these buying triggers are so powerful, but a lot of people had trouble implementing them. Just their creativity, they couldn't like use them. So I created a tool that you can put in your market and your product, and it will create all 20 buying triggers for you. And it'll tell you which ones to combine together for the most impact and all that. And that's the tool in Quantum. So basically, for you to get access to that free tool that I just made, it's inside the Quantum Suite, which you get when you purchase the ACT bundle. So for $47 a month, they could get access to that tool and all the rest of the stuff that I've made for them. And by the time they experience, 20 lessons with me, that builds a lot of trust and a lot of goodwill, and I've given away a massive amount of value. So at that point, it's a reasonable thing for me to ask them to join for $47 to get more. And if they don't want to get more, that's fine too. So they can go on their way and everybody's happy. So I'll never know, but they'll never know what they missed out on. So they'll be kept up. late at night not being able to go to sleep because of that. So that's that has to do with you guys ever heard of open loops? You open loops, basically you're opening things that never get closed that will drive people insane if they don't close them. It's like a riddle. Just put out a riddle and then walk away without closing the loop. People will chase you and beat you over the head to find out the riddle so they don't go crazy at night thinking, God, what was the answer to that? And that's what really good salespeople do. They'll open loops. And a really good example of a real basic one is you start into a story. You say, I've got this really, really powerful marketing technique that works for everybody. But let me get back to that in a minute. I'll tell you about that after I talk about these other things. So you now just opened a loop. And what's happening is their subconscious mind is waiting. It's sitting there and it's open and it's waiting. It's waiting to hear that thing that it really wants. So now you can talk to them for 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes about other stuff, and their subconscious mind is open to taking in whatever you say. It's a form of brainwashing, and it's very powerful. But it literally is opening them up so they stay focused and paying attention to you. And if you're on stage and you see that that's not working, let's say you only open one loop. A good salesperson on stage will probably open up 7 loops. They'll just keep opening them up and opening them up and opening them up. And they're supposed to close them all down at the end right before they make the call to action. So what a lot of times what I'll do is I'll intentionally open some loops that I'm not going to close so I can get audience participation. Like at the end, you want them to say, "Oh, whoa, whoa, we were waiting for that one thing. What was it? What was it?" If you get that reaction, you have done well because they're waiting for it and they're not going to let you get out of the room without closing the loop. But the key is you're opening the loops to get them open minded. Because if you're doing a sales presentation and the person you're talking to is closed, your message is not getting through. If you're trying to teach someone something and they're closed, good luck. You're not going to teach them anything because they're not listening. They might be listening and responding consciously, but if their subconscious is closed and locked, nothing's going in. It's like the lights are on, but nobody's home. So you have to literally open that subconscious mind to be able to get your message in, and that's the key. So that's what open loops are for. So try that out. Like just try that. And I opened a loop on you guys. You probably didn't even realize it because I was talking about if you lose their attention during the thing and then I skipped off of it. You guys probably didn't even notice that, but I opened a loop on you. I'm just exposing like what I'm doing right now is exactly what I'm talking about. So when you do that, let's say you're on stage and you notice like people are drifting off. They're losing, you're losing them. You can snap them back with what's called a pattern redirect. You can literally snap them to attention in an instant by saying something like this. What I'm about to tell you changes everything. All of a sudden, their subconscious hears that and boom, they are focused right on you. So you can bring them back. It's amazing what you can do with words. It's really incredible. And this is all stuff that comes from the NLP world. And NLP, it stands for neuro linguistic programming, but the reality is it's just patterns. Everything that you'll ever learn about NLP is based on patterns. And it's natural formed patterns that exist in the real world. Somebody that is has skills in NLP, all they're doing is they're looking at patterns that work and they're just replicating them. That's it. Like they somebody somewhere along the line noticed that if you open a loop, it you can train better. They probably discovered it. They probably didn't say, "Oh, well if I do this, this is going to happen." It probably just happened naturally and they recognized the pattern. Hey, it worked once, it worked twice, it worked three times. Now it's a pattern. And if you got a good result from using the pattern, you might want to use it again. That's all NLP is. It's natural patterns that have been recognized and repurposed. And that's what you want. I mean, everything about your business is about patterns. If you're a salesperson and you make 10 sales calls and you don't get a result that you're looking for, you're not following a pattern that you should repeat, right? You just proved that's not the way to do it. If all of a sudden you get on a sales call and everything goes great and you make the deal, you close the deal, that's an instance, it's not a pattern, but you can try that again. If it works two, three, four times, now it becomes a pattern. So there's a big difference between instances and patterns. An instance could happen for any number of reasons. There's any number of reasons that somebody might say yes and you might close a deal, but it might not be replicatable. So that's an instance. It's not a pattern until it repeats itself two or three or four times. And when it does, be conscious of it, be aware of it, and know that that is the key to your success. If you get up in the morning and your livelihood depends on you closing a deal today, which would you prefer to lean on? The pattern that closed four deals last week, or the pattern where 10 presentations were made and not a deal was formed? Right? If you depend on this to eat, and you know if I don't close a deal today, there ain't no dinner on the table, which pattern are you going to lean on? Right? A smart, sane person is going to take the one that closed four deals. That's really as simple as it is. That's NLP. It's using natural language patterns to form results. And it works over and over and over. There's a lot more things to it, but they all are based on patterns. Like there's a way, this one is fascinating. I got to tell you, this to me is the most powerful thing I've learned from NLP. And it's the pattern to unlock your mind to go back in time or to go forward in time. It literally is a time machine. And it's called, they call it timeline, because that's what it is. It's your timeline. And your timeline goes back to when you started. Even some people say they can access the timeline in the womb. I'm not that talented. I can't go back that far. But I can go back to times when I was, a child and remember things like they happened right now. And before NLP, I didn't have that. Like I basically had no recollection of a lot of childhood. I just didn't know what was back there. And that was because I didn't know how to access it. Most people don't know how to do this. And NLP has a pattern that you can follow that works. And you can actually go back and you can find things like you can find the first time you experienced fear. Like if you have a fear of something and you want to address it, you have to go back to the core of where it came from. So the timeline allows you to do that. It allows you to go back and re-experience it and figure out where it came from. And then if you want to get rid of it, that follows another NLP framework or pattern that says re-experience it as it was, feel the emotion, feel the fear, re-experience it. And then elevate up and look down on it and watch it as a movie, like you're watching a movie. And it's not you. You're taking yourself and your current day emotion out of it and you're just watching it. And from the perspective of who you are today, how does it make you feel? And when you look at it in that framework, you're like, wow, why was I afraid? Or why was I angry? Or why was whatever the emotion is? And when you do that, all of a sudden now you change the value of the initial emotion. All of a sudden that fear goes away because you broke it at the core. And that's how they can do therapies and things, and they can get instant results. You don't have to go to therapy for years. You go to an NLP person and they can bust that shit in minutes. It's amazing. It's really interesting. Arbo, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a few people on Alignable, not surprising, that do that. One of them calls it blind spotting, and so when I had a one-to-one with her, I had no idea, because she's like, "What do you do?" Blah blah blah, and she said it, and she said, "Would you like me to do an example?" I was like, Okay." And it was interesting. So yeah, there's definitely some if anybody's really interested in it, she's pretty good. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
people on Alignable that do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that have learned it. I mean, you can go through the training and you can learn it at multiple levels. And they have a level called master practitioner where you can actually do it and teach it. And I think he's got master practitioner level too. Is that right, Daryl?
Yeah, I just want to echo what John's saying. It's absolutely 100% correct. I've actually taken people, which is kind of crazy, John, past the boom, where they went and past life stuff even. It's pretty wild.
Oh, wow.
So I put a couple books in there. Um, Actually, Brian Noon, who's on here now, I've actually worked with him a long time ago with something with regards to like the military stuff.
Oh, cool.
But you can see a couple of books I listed on there. One was Timeline Therapy. Another was a really good book for presenting magically, and that's done by Tad James. He's one of the best in the world at it. But both those books would be great to grab and kind of help you open up and unlock what John's actually talking about, because it's the difference between seeing things in black and white and seeing things in color. It's that powerful.
Yeah.
John, can I ask Daryl? I want to ask Daryl a unique question. Kind of relates to my personal life, but it is a life lesson on all of this. Because Daryl, I think you really could help me clarify this.
Mhm.
I suffer from severe depression because of a medication I'm on, and I refuse to take another medication for the depression. Is there something in NLP that can help me deal with that?
Every time, yeah.
All right, Daryl, you and I connect on privately because I love to talk. Because
Yeah,
seriously,
sure.
this is a serious issue in my life,
Oh,
and
I've
it's
helped.
medically induced, and I get it, and I
Yeah.
would love to go, okay, what is there? What can I do? I'm always looking. What can I do to make my life better? Yeah.
I've helped people fears of heights, fear. I helped a guy with fear of heights in between appetizer and dessert with 20 people in the room,
Mhm.
just for fun. And then he went on the high roller with us that night. If you want to go watch hours of testimonials, feel free to go look on YouTube about me with
Yeah.
this stuff.
I know this was just a specific,
Yeah.
different, weird way, and I'm like, maybe this could be, I'll always love to make learning opportunities for everybody on John's call. So, yeah,
Yeah, no, and
it's
I love John, honestly, in the
yeah,
group you guys have here. I mean, John talked the other day. I think you guys here is awesome. So
yeah,
anything I can help you guys to kind of unlock you guys to the next level to use some of these
mhm,
things John's actually talking about,
yeah.
please, I'm happy to help out in any
Well,
way I
we're
can.
gonna private message each other, and we're gonna get on a call
Can
together.
you
Thank you
put the
so
name
much,
of the
Daryl.
books also on the chat?
Yeah,
What's
Daryl,
that?
put your contact information in the
Oh
chat.
yeah, sure.
Mhm.
I tried to
Thanks,
read.
John.
You know how that regression is that the similar NLP process where they take
Um,
you back in time and either past and present at the same time?
Just a
so
different name for it.
I can
It's
draw a
called
picture on the
regression, I thought.
screen real quick, actually, John. It might be kind of helpful.
Yeah,
And then it'll also help you guys in sales. one of the reasons we're talking about all this, obviously. Give me 1 second. John, if I can share the screen real quick, I'll draw a quick picture. And
Yeah,
then,
you should be able to share.
okay, cool. Let me do this. I'll just get the whiteboard out.
For those of you that don't know, the very first time I did an ACT training, I had Daryl come out and do an opening so he could literally open people's minds. So when I trained them on ACT, they would get it. So he did like a half-hour session on the whole group before I started doing my thing for that sole purpose, because I wanted everybody to get it.
Yeah, it's really powerful. So this is like timeline, okay? So you heard about timeline, John actually just mentioned. And if we're like located like right here on your timeline, that's like today, okay? So what we're going to do is just kind of go through in this exercise. So the H stands for like today, like we're here in the present. And this is like the future that's out here, okay? So we're just going to take an example of like something that's happened possibly in your life that hasn't been the greatest. You haven't got the greatest result for whatever it is. This could be a financial thing that's happened. This could be a relationship thing that actually happened. It could be you got in a car accident. Maybe you fell off something high. Maybe you were screamed at by somebody. Maybe you have some kind of anxiety that's coming from something or whatever it is, right? Doesn't matter what it is. So anytime that actually happened in your life, it's like a computer software when you start to look at this. It's like a program, right? So that got programmed in your life as last time I let that happen in my life or expose myself to whatever that is, that was a bad event, right? So the mind says, I'm not going to let you do whatever that thing is again. Now, you possibly, I'm going to give an example of this for a past client of mine. This was actually pretty cool. So this gentleman came to me, we were working together and he was kind of mentoring me a little bit. And he came to me, he's like, hey, can you help me out with my stuff? And I was like, wow, I'd love to. And I really look up to this guy. We're still friends today. And he had at the time was making less than $1 million a year, which is like unheard of from him. He's not. That's like that's like whoa, that's like way less money. Because this guy a couple of years previously had taken a company like public for like $6 billion, made a ton of money, live in that kind of lifestyle, all the things or whatever, right? But what happened after that is he went into another business opportunity and he just had this big like crash and burn, right? Has anybody ever been there where all of a sudden everything's going great, whatever you're doing was working great, and all of a sudden something actually happened, came and you sideswiped you didn't actually see it coming or whatever it was. Now you're like stuck. Well, what happens inside the brain is the brain associates that with a bad choice that you actually made. So the brain subconsciously, you have 21 different laws inside of your brain. One of them is, I'm not going to let that happen again, right? Because the last time I let it actually happen, it caused me to have like this massive like problem. And maybe you went into depression or somebody died or some other tragic thing actually happened to you. Could have been, like I said before, relationship wise, where, maybe you got cheated on, right? Or maybe it was you felt like the walls were closing in with like anxiety or whatever it was, so you can pick any number of things. It doesn't matter whatever it is, but that little program just tells your brain, okay, well, we're not going to let that happen again to you, right? So all of a sudden you want to go out here, let's say it's about making money, right? And this is where it applies a lot of to us. Now that little money symbol, maybe that's a self-worth issue that actually happened from somewhere like back here in your childhood where something actually happened and it triggered you. Like you got on, I had this woman get on a scale, and she got on the scale, and her mom looked at her when she was like 6 years old and made a comment to her. And at that point, that locked in her mind that all of a sudden, boom, I've got this body morph issue where for the rest of her life, until she had met me, like 20 some years later, maybe even 30, it was like 30 years later, she came to me and she's like, I got this body problem. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what's going on. So as we actually got involved with doing timeline therapy, we were able to find out that it was this event that originally like happened, right? Now here's the trick behind this. Your subconscious mind, its number one job is to protect you. So first of all, it doesn't actually want you to know where the problem came from. So when I'm talking to her on a subconscious side of things, it actually freely talks to me, right? So I'm freely having a conversation with like the ROM of the computer at this point, and it's telling me like, actually, the problem's over here. I know she told you this over here, but the problem's really over here. So when we go back and actually find that problem from where that person is, it's at that point that you can then access like, oh, that's where that problem is. So the beautiful part about timeline therapy, and I'm just giving you, spilling you all the secrets here because the big secret is when we actually go back and work on somebody's timeline, we actually go back to where that event doesn't exist, which is before it actually happened. So if you go back to that point in your life, whatever it is, whatever that situation was, and you actually go back inside your mind before that event actually ever happened, it actually doesn't know the event actually happened yet because you're before that in the timeline. Does that make sense to everybody? John, is that making sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So now you're actually before the event actually ever happened. It's never happened to your life yet. And all of a sudden, I was like, well, how do you feel about that event? You're like, well, I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. And I'll be like, well, what was and here's the key lesson. And this is the foot stomper. It's whatever the lesson is you need to take away from that event, that by taking the lesson away, you can release the emotions associated with it. Because the emotions are what actually are toxic. And the toxic emotions is what the mind doesn't want to let you actually ever experience again. So when you can take the toxic emotions out of it, guess what causes heart attacks, guys? It causes stress, right? Guess what causes people to die, right? It's because they get angry about something, right? A lot of times anger comes from sadness. Where does sadness come from? Depression, right? So when you look at all these things, right, it's those things that are happening, and that's because there's emotions that are stuck in you from events that have happened in the past. Is all that making clear? Right? So all of a sudden you're like, hey, why does this guy get anxiety and die? Well, he's had anxiety his whole life, but when you have anxiety, it's like your cells are shaking like this, right? I'm just shaking your cells. How good is that for the body? Not very good, right? So I mean, that's what's going to cause your body to break out into cancer and stuff like that. A lot of times I can sit there and look at somebody and they tell me what they actually had, like mental, not just the mental, but their health problems. And I'd be like, okay, so you've got a history of this and this. I'd be like, okay. So I already know that they've got some kind of sadness that's just going on from some kind of event that happened in their past. And that sadness is what's really killing them. It's not the fact that they had too many cheeseburgers, right? Or whatever it is. Like that literally is coming from the emotions that are stuck in their body that happened sometimes 20, 30 years ago. You want to hear a crazy story? So this woman turn around and we were working together. She hired me. She would drive from Minnesota to Las Vegas for a mastermind, and she'd been doing this for years. And I joined the mastermind, and the guy who run the mastermind says, "Hey, you should really talk to her." And I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean talk about?" Well, she drives here because she's afraid of flying. And I laughed, and I just said, "Really, that's it?" And she's like, "Yeah." So she hired me, and the next mastermind, she turned around and she not only flew down, right? I called her after she landed. And I said, "Hey, how'd it go?" And she's like, "I can't find my ID." And I'm like, "Well, where are you?" She's like, "I'm in Las Vegas." I was like, "But how was the flight?" Oh, she said, "That was fine." I was like, literally. And here's a woman who had paid for thousands and thousands of dollars of like extra help, therapy, like pills, like everything she could. And and I didn't actually tell you how bad it was with this person. This woman was actually kicked off an airplane where it went out to the tarmac and they brought the airplane back to the gate and they kicked her off the plane and said, "You're never allowed to fly with us again. You're on our blacklist." I didn't know they did that, right? This is how bad this lady was, right? Now, you want to hear the secret about how we actually helped her out? This is the crazy part. So I said to her, I was in her subconscious, I said, "Hey, when was the first time that you had an issue being stuck, in an airplane or have a fear of flying or have just an issue around this?" And she's like, "Well, the first time I remember is I'm in this close space." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Is there anybody else there?" She's like, "No, but I can hear things." And I was like, "Okay, where are you?" And she's like, "I'm in my mother's womb." And I was like, "Really? You're in your mom's womb?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, well, how old are you in the womb?" And she says, "Well, I'm 6 months." And I said, "Okay, let me ask you a question. If you came out early at 6 months, what would possibly happen to you when you came out early?" She's like, "Well, I might not actually make it. I might die." And I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty similar to like being on an airplane, right?" She's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, don't you think you'd want to stay in there for the duration of when you're supposed to come out?" And she's like, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Okay, let's do that and see how it goes." So I'm like, okay, the flight's over. You can come out now. And she's like, okay. She came out, I'm doing this subconsciously, right? And she was like, oh, this is a lot better. And I said, okay. Now here's the cool part, actually, how to test yourself if it actually worked. I don't have to wait until she gets on the airplane, right? I literally then say to her, I said, okay, let's go on an airplane flight. And I say, now she was back here. She went back and she processed her emotions around this, right? She turned it into a good thing at this point. So now she feels good about what actually happened because, yeah, actually, I should stay in the room for 9 months because I come out early, I could actually die, right? And I said, okay, let's go on an airplane out here in the future, right? So how do you're about to get on an airplane. How do you feel about that? I feel fine. I was like, okay, go on the airplane flight. And now the flight's over. I was like, did you have any issues at all? Was it good? She's like, yeah, I was completely fine. And I was like, okay. I was like, you can come back to today. And I brought her back to today. And then she came back to here. And before she opened her eyes, I said, go ahead and like lock all that lessons in and release all those emotions, all the stuff, whatever. She came out of it and she was like, I'm like, how are you feeling now? She's like, I feel fine. I was like, do you feel good with going on an airplane? Yeah, no problem. I was like, okay. I was like, well, just call me after you land or whatever. Now, I've done this a dozen times for people with like flight problems or whatever. I've got some pretty crazy stories. That's just one of like, I could tell you guys hundreds and hundreds of stories about this stuff, but that's essentially how it works. And if you get the book Timeline Therapy, very, very important. How does this apply to what John's talking to you guys about with business? Here's the thing is, right? People are coming to you, right? This is what you're really doing, what you don't realize you're actually doing, is you have to help these people overcome the subconscious trash they got in their house, which is up here, so they can actually buy whatever it is you have, right? Because guess what? They had some kind of past relationship with a thing that they did that didn't actually work out for them. So you've got to get them past that information first, right? So now you have to go back and you take them here as like, look at it from this perspective of like, why is this different from the last thing they actually dealt with, right? Now, how many times have you guys seen a sales letter? It's like, this is not buying ads. This is not this. This is not this. This is the blah, blah. And I was like, this is why all this thing's actually different. You can throw all that stuff out because if you just do this one thing, you'll be able to release yourself and finally get to that place you want to go, right? Which in this case is making money, right? How many of you guys have heard a sales letter just like that, right? All of them, right? Anyone that actually works anyway, right? So when you're thinking about this with your client, with your personnel, whoever you're actually working with, you're putting somebody through the same process. You don't actually just realize you're doing it. That's what got me really interested in this field was back in 2009 when I first got started doing all this stuff. I started watching everybody's presentations, start watching people like John. The reason I actually went to that event, I met John out in 2009, where I got into the original group, right? Was because I watched a guy give a presentation about how to give a presentation, and I bought a ticket I bought the program because I was going to get a live ticket to go to the event for traffic and conversion with Ryan Dyson in Austin, Texas, right? That was the first time I met John. And John was up there talking about SEO stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like the Godfather, right? So here I'm sitting out in the audience, like learning all this stuff. But the reason I showed up to the event was because I bought the guy's program that had the ticket to go to the event, and the guy's program was about how to actually give these presentations. And really, what I was learning was NLP techniques without actually knowing it was called NLP. So what John's sharing with you guys is like, hey, this is how it really works. So if you really want to master this stuff and really master the craft, that's what I did personally. Was I turned around and I started to learn how this stuff works. So for a few years, that's all I started to actually invest in. I started understanding how the brain works, how this works, and how to get presentations. And then I came across this gentleman, and then he actually took me under his wing. He was like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm like the like Luke Skywalker, right? And he's like, hey, little Padawan, like come with me. And I'm like, okay. So in 1 hour, I had PTSD that had riddled me for years and years. I had gone to therapy, went to the VA, did all the things. And I met with this guy for 1 hour, and he helped me out of letting go of basically like survivor's guilt, right? And I just talked to my sergeant major last week. Out of my platoon that I was no longer allowed to be a part of, we had 45 guys, 43 got Purple Hearts, right? And at my company, John, and I didn't even know this stat until last weekend, we had roughly about 180 Marines. At first, we had 143 guys in our company with Purple Hearts, right? And then they issued an additional 20 Purple Hearts because of the concussion blast, and guys couldn't actually remember things, right, as they were going on in their life, right? So I had a lot of survivor's guilt about what actually went on and happened. So it took me less than an hour to go through with Tom and go through that. And after I did that, I said, Tom, I was like, I want to learn everything about this stuff. I want to be able to help my guys out, right? My Marines out and the guys I served with. And then I also like by default, I started learning this. And then people started hiring me to do this stuff. I wasn't even trying to elicit for like work or anything. People started contacting me who are these like gurus and they're like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I was like, yeah, sure. And they're like, let me pay you all this money. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was sitting in Russell Brunson's room, and these guys are making millions of dollars doing marketing stuff, and I don't hold a candle to any of these guys. And then they're inviting me to like their private masterminds and groups and retreats and all these things, and because I'm able to do something that they can't do themselves, right? Because the 10,000 hours I spent learning how to do all that stuff, right? They spent marketing, right? So it's about like where you spend your time with some of this stuff too. And the beautiful part about it was the stuff that I learned, I've applied to like everything I do in my life. I'm came circle back around here because I really want to create like some programs that are more like software as a service. So I can be like more like John, where I can go on my boat more often here, and like hang out and fish, and I don't have to be working on the phone all the time talking to people. So I just want to say thanks, John. Again, you're awesome. I appreciate you and your group you got here. And if you guys have any further questions on this stuff or how it actually works, I will leave you with the one nugget is if you design your products and services so they actually close the loops as you open them for the people you're actually educating and teaching and solving their problems. So the only way they're actually going to be able to get there is when they actually hire you or when they pay you for that service. Because if you let them off the hook early, and that could be in a sales conversation over the phone, it could be in your sales letter, whatever it is, then they're just going to leave because they feel like in a weird way that they got their answer they needed and they're just going to go away. So I was guilty of that myself when I first got started doing sales. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I turned around and I just gave away the farm. And at the end of the day, I'm like, why aren't people actually buying this? I mean, it works, but they feel like subconsciously they feel like they got the answer they needed. So if you do that, that's a cardinal sin of sales. That's my soapbox. That's all I got for today. Thanks, John. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Daryl.
mhm.
And what this is, if you guys don't realize what he described and painted this picture out, this is the objections. This is where those objections came from. And if you go all the way back to the guy that figured out the formula to reverse objections in sales was Benjamin Franklin. I've talked about this a lot. Benjamin Franklin says that every objection comes from a belief. And Daryl just painted you the picture of what forms the beliefs. It's things that happen in your timeline, sometimes way back where they don't even remember it, but it's there. That belief is there and it's going to prevent the sale. It's going to create an objection. And a lot of times the objections are hidden, they're not spoken, but they're there. And if you want to create the sale, if you want to get them over that hurdle, you have to eliminate the objection. That's where Benjamin Franklin's formula came in to eliminate the objection in just a couple of steps. So he's basically doing on his customers what Daryl's talking about is doing on his clients to eliminate their objections and their fears and getting them to a better life. And he does it with claim, proof, benefit. That was Benjamin Franklin's formula. He would take whatever the objection was, and he did it in a very different way, but it worked. Works over and over and over. So that's a pattern. So that is a form of NLP. This, what Daryl painted out here, is more a formula that works in a therapeutic situation. Benjamin Franklin did it on the fly in a sales presentation way. So he identifies the objection, makes a claim that is absolutely 100% opposite. Like if you believe you can't, he says you can. Now that's just argumentative if you leave it at that. But then he throws out the claim and then he attaches it to two proof points. which aren't him just saying it, it's proof. He's like stating a fact. And at that point, the proof points have to be third party verification that validate it as proof. It's almost like fact checking in real time on the fly. So now, if that one thing that people don't like is they don't like to be wrong because they don't want to look foolish. So if you just threw out the claim and then the proof, all of a sudden now what their belief was is no longer correct. It's no longer accurate. Now they just reverse that into the favor of purchasing your product instead of not purchasing your product. And then he attaches it back to the benefit, which was what you wanted anyway. So claim, proof, benefit was the formula that Benjamin Franklin came up with. And it worked back then. That was 275 years ago, and it's still working today. So that's proof that our human mind hasn't really changed much. It still works the same way it did when we were primitive Pete.
I want to echo on what John's saying there, because it's absolutely 100% correct. Um, there's the whole thing about the story is you ever heard, I don't know, a presentation like, oh, what are your three benefits or what are your three stories or the three things with your slide deck, blah, 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 right? That's exactly what John's talking about right here. Is each one of those is a story that you're basically telling through proof points, and people can't actually argue with the story. That's the thing about it. It's the story is that when you watch the movie Rocky 4 and it's like Apollo was in the movie and he gets killed and then it's like Rocky wants to, fight now the Russian guy who's coming out of retirement and there's a whole storyline behind it, right? It's all of a sudden you get involved in the character that's in the story, but you're the one going through the story. Now you all of a sudden have this belief that you can go out and actually do it because that person actually did it. Just by watching the movie, all of a sudden you got people out there on the streets in Philadelphia thinking they could beat everybody up, right? Because they ran up the steps. So the whole point is like when you're able to share these stories and the people read them or watch them, all of a sudden it's like, wow. And if you ever notice through a presentation, how many testimonials you see through a presentation, like over and over again, and even at the end, it's down to it. Now that I want to share this, John, because this is some gold right here. Okay, if I haven't dropped any gold yet, this is where you really need to pay attention. So there's a book called Sleight of Mouth, and I just put the book in there. Okay. Now, the book Sleight of Mouth, if you actually learn the principles and how to actually apply that book, you will never lose an argument. You will never lose anything, honestly, just by applying what's in there. Now, if you take that, and I'm throwing this out there, and this is something I'm doing myself. If you take books like that and you can go out and get a PDF version of it, okay, and you can put that into your AI as part of your knowledge base and say, hey, knowledge base, right? I want to use this concept of sleight of mouth in all my marketing and presentations and in my AI chatbots and in my this, that, or whatever, right? That right there is gold. So it's like, I mean, you see what I'm talking about, John? So
Yeah. Do you guys
yeah.
understand what he just did? What he just did was a pattern redirect. Remember I said if you want to get people's attention and draw them back in, he said if you didn't get the gold yet, you really need to pay attention right now. That is a pattern redirect. See, he's doing the stuff and he doesn't even realize that he's doing it. It's just entwined in his being. And that's what you want to aspire to. You want to get to that point where you're able to do this just in standard conversation that looks absolutely normal, but you're able to control the audience. It's incredibly powerful. So, did you know you were doing that, Daryl?
I kind of did on that one. So.
Okay. I figured.
But honestly, guys, like what I just shared with you right there, that alone, oh my gosh, if you just put that one thing into your prompt and you're educating your prompts on how to use sleight of mouth. And if you Google it, I'm only telling John this in John's group. Okay. There's nobody else that I've told about this. If you can go on the internet and find a PDF version of that, or find PDF versions as well of like other people you want to master their stories. I don't know. There's all kind of marketing email letters that are out there and all this stuff, and you can create your own stuff that's in there. So when you start to think bigger behind you know, when you're using this AI technology side of things, like it's kind of like who's seen the movie like The Matrix, right? Seen the movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, right? So when he uploads like Taekwondo to the back of his head and he comes out, now he's a black belt master in Taekwondo, right? That's basically what you're doing here with all this AI. It's like, hey, let me program my AI with sleight of mouth, right? Let me program it with you know, the sales formula by, you know, Walker, whatever his name, Jeff Walker, right? So yeah, product launch formula, right? So it's like you start doing that with these AI prompts, and then you can then have yours that's now educating the consumer, and you're now just you're selling your products, but it's using techniques and patterns that are far beyond that we can actually do as humans, right? Way better than I'll ever be able to do because it's able to create this technology and just learn from the experience of working with people. And that's some of the cool stuff I'm working on right now is how I incorporate this into all the different AI stuff I'm doing, John.
Yeah. Are you still talking to Jay Williams?
No, I haven't talked to him in a while.
You might want to reach out to him. He broke down a pattern he found in me about time compression.
Mhm,
And he created a whole pattern around it. It's really cool.
mhm.
I might want to check it out. But cool. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing this stuff. You know, it's one
Yeah,
thing for people to hear it from me, but then it's another thing to hear it, you know, from somebody that actually does it, you know, for a living. It's the stuff works. It's
yeah,
very
it's
cool.
pretty wild. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.
I have a question for you, Daryl, but let me
Mhm.
get to Brian first. He said he's
Yeah,
up for a while.
Hey everybody, great job, brother. I love that. I'm glad we took the time with that today. Um, Obviously we're at the end of our meeting, but John, maybe and maybe this could be done through an email or something. I was just curious as to within the different, the different software modules, what's what's selling the best and what markets they're going to, if anyone has any particular methods that are being more successful, et cetera, just to kind of center in on something rather than try to do all things. And
Gotcha, gotcha.
if you have any data like that based on your affiliates and whatnot.
Yeah, it we do like the people that I work with most are agencies. Like almost everything that I build is really for an agency. It's not necessarily for you just to do it yourself, although it
Yeah, I mean,
really could be.
I have, that's what I have. That's what I've had for decades. So
Yeah,
that's where I'm
yeah.
coming from.
But like with an agency, you want to find stuff that you can provide service without providing a lot of your time to implement it. So one of the things is whoever controls the hosting controls the whole experience. That's why I started off with a hosting company. When you control the hosting, you control the base of the marketing experience. They're going to trust the host to do the website. They're going to trust the website guy to do the SEO. They're going to trust the SEO guy to do the marketing. So it gives you that baseline of trust all the way up the ladder. So for whatever you want to provide, you want to focus on the beginning game. So you got a ton of people out there that have websites already that aren't working. They're garbage. It's really easy to pick them off. And I watched Perry do this thing at his last show that was really brilliant. And I think it was GenSpark that he used. He would take a website that was a crappy website and he would go in GenSpark and he would have GenSpark redesign the website. And then he would send it to the prospect and say, "Hey, we used your website as an example for a training we were doing, and I'd like to get your feedback on it." Now they see the new, improved, beautiful website, and they look at theirs, and it's like it, you know, came out of the 1940s, and it's junk. And all of a sudden, they're going to say they don't have a webmaster that's probably working with them actively. If they did, they'd just say, "Hey, can you reproduce this?" And they would. But most people don't. So they're going to lean back and say, hey, could you do that for me? And you can say, yeah, now all of a sudden you've got a web customer. And that's the base. All services stem out of that. You don't have to be a web designer. We have, I mean, that's one of the things we do as a reseller is we offer reseller services using my team to develop sites and do hosting. But it puts you in the control there. Then you can offer them any other services. You know, we're coming out on Monday. Hopefully we were able to launch this. It's supposed to come out on Monday, this coming Monday. It's called Optimancer. And the Optimancer, basically, it's a software program where you, as an agency, all you do is you put in that website. That website is going to get scanned. Our AI is going to scan the site, find all the pages, and basically generate a white label report with your name on it as the agency, the customer's name on it from the website, and then you can give it to them. Or you can put this opt-in up on a website and you can say, hey, come over and scan your website and find out, how to optimize for AI. So this is a great lead magnet. Either giving them the report or letting them opt in on your website to get a scan so they can see how to optimize for AI. That's a big conversation going on, is how to get traffic out of AI. It's as big or bigger than the conversation originally with SEO, was how to get traffic out of search engines. So this is a really good, super simple, easy way to generate leads. You can also say, when somebody, you give them the report and say, hey, you need to talk to your webmaster to get this stuff fixed if you want to take advantage of AI traffic. Most people are going to say, well, could you just do that for me? Right? Most people. And if they don't, great, just let them go. Let them go swim. Swim on your own. The next thing, I talked about this yesterday in a mastermind group. You should be kind of picky about who you're willing to take on. Only take on the customers you can easily help with the minimum amount of your effort and the maximum amount of impact for them. Those are the customers you should be taking. The rest of them, you should be telling them to go swim. Somebody else can handle you. You're more than I want to deal with. So we also have a WordPress plugin that goes with Optimancer. So you can say, oh, by the way, if they come back and they want you to do the work for them, say, well, we only take on a couple of different types of clients. You have to have a WordPress site and, whatever else you want to have as the criteria. You have to have a WordPress site and you have to have a site that actually converts for me to do business with you. If you look at their site, it's probably not going to convert. So now you got a web development project and you got an optimization project. Just by putting the WordPress plugin, it's going to do the three main things to optimize for AI that most people are going to need at this point in the game. Like if you go back in time, travel back on the timeline, back to the beginning days of SEO, all you had to do was like one or two little simple things that no one else was doing, and you ruled the world. That's where we are with the AI right now. There's only three things that's going to put you ahead of 99% of the rest of the people trying to play the game. Because most of them don't even know what the three things are. And it's the LLM file, it's having properly formatted schema for AI, and it's having FAQs on every page of your website. And that's what our plugin's going to do. It's going to do those three main things. If they want to do all the rest of the stuff in the report, you can either hire a team that will do that at a very high cost. You can say, why don't we do these three and let's see the results? It's probably going to be enough for you. And you literally have a plugin doing all the work. You're just billing them monthly for the service. So to me, that is the easiest thing on the horizon as far as from an agency perspective to do. And like I said, I hope we're able to launch that on Monday.
That sounds great. I mean, that's at this point in my career, having done all the agency things that require a ton of fulfillment. That's
Mhm.
exactly why I'm attracted to what you're doing here, because there are things that um, don't, basically do the work themselves. So that's exciting. In particular, the air, what's it called, air acquisition air or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Acquisition Air was a very hard sell because you had to have email skills. You had to have,
yeah, that's the thing. Because that's what Brady, is it Brady that you work with?
yeah, yeah. Brady runs our
he
acquisition.
was he was telling me, he just gave me a word of caution as far as who to present that to, because they've got to have other things going on,
Yeah.
and some other skills and things like that. But this new thing sounds exceptionally good. And if there are any other insights from other affiliates in terms of what they're doing with the Act bundle, or and our Quantum, and or whatever, I think probably this group would find that interesting.
Okay. Yeah. I've been promising this for a while now, and I keep procrastinating. Maybe I should have Daryl get in my head and figure out what's getting in my way. I've been promising to go back through my affiliate program and clean it up. I've got way too many different offers and links and stuff in there. But the stuff that is really working as far as that for affiliates is not sending them direct to try and buy the product. It's sending them through one of the lead magnets that I've got. Like for instance, the Buying Trigger Masterclass. That's a free giveaway. I have an opt-in. I have an affiliate link so you could give that masterclass away. And then people go, they take the masterclass, they learn about me, I gain their trust through the lessons, and then I offer the ACT bundle. And when I do, they get paid. So that I think is probably the best way, or giving away the AI book. When they give away the AI book, it's the same thing. I have an affiliate link in there. Give away the free AI book. They go through there, they learn about the ACT program, they learn about the quantum tools, and then they buy it and the affiliate gets paid.
Got
So
it.
those are the kind of things where you can take somebody through a process of giving them massive value and then letting them know there's so much more if they just pay a little bit, to get behind the curtain.
For sure.
But if you
All
don't
right.
do that initial thing and build their trust and give them enough value up front, you never really get to play the game. You can throw
Got it.
people, in an hour webinar, which we have that, but it just doesn't work as good if they haven't gotten that first taste of you. They've
Yeah, for
gone through
sure.
the master class and then you offer them the webinar and they can learn more. They're hungry to consume more. And that's the place where they're hungry to purchase from you too. So those are really good ways to get people moving and making money, whether you're an affiliate or whether you're doing this for your own stuff.
Got it. Got it. Great advice. Thank you. All right,
Yeah,
great session, guys. I gotta jump, but yeah, awesome stuff. Daryl, thank you for the reminder. I think you did such a good job with me that I forgot we even did
that's awesome.
Pretty common.
it. All right, take care, guys.
All right, we had the other Daryl. Did you still have a question, Daryl? I know you. Yeah,
Well,
you
I kind of was
jumped up.
going back and forth. I'm really intrigued what the other Daryl had to say. But Daryl, when you're working one-on-one with somebody, are you using hypnosis at all? You got to be doing something to get them to go all the way back.
Yeah, it's a combination of hypnosis, timeline therapy, the NLP techniques, along with there's like forgiveness thing. It's this Hawaiian thing I use. So I'd say that's the true secret sauce is in the forgiveness.
Mhm.
If right now, if you're listening to this and you want to let go of something from the past, the biggest thing is to forgive the person, right? To forgive yourself and forgive all the things in between now and then that possibly caused you even more pain because of that one thing. Because it doesn't matter if the person's alive anymore, doesn't matter if you're talking to the person anymore, um, because you're the person that's here, right? It's you. You're doing this for you. You're actually doing the forgiveness pattern for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else. Now, are other people going to benefit? if you were to call the person. I can tell you on a personal experience if you give me like 30 seconds to tell this personal experience because I really wanted this to hit home because it hit my home, right? And I sat down and once I did this and went through this process I'm sharing with you guys, I was able to sit down with my mom. And I love my mom to death. I think I was about 36 at the time. But I probably couldn't sit and have a conversation with my mom for more than 5 minutes without just getting irritated because
Hmm.
her language patterns and just old emotional stuff that she had actually done that triggered me from guilt trips to all the things from over the years, ever since I was a kid. If anybody can relate where they're sitting with somebody and they're like, I don't even know why I'm upset with this person. Um, on a sidebar, I was with one of my Marines in the Marine Corps, and he used to do this to me. And I didn't know why. I would get so upset with this guy. And one time I actually yelled at him, which I never yelled at my Marines like this. And I thought about it afterwards, like, what did I do? I had no idea. It wasn't until years later, and I was sitting down doing the deep-seated subconscious work that I realized, like, this is actually where it's coming from because it was my mom that triggered me about all this stuff. That's why I got upset at that Marine. I mean, yeah, maybe he didn't deserve to get the tongue lashing I gave him that day, but where it actually came from was the stuff that my mom did because he did something that actually triggered me from where my mom did. And I had another client where this guy actually came to me through another client and they said, "Hey, listen, I need you to talk to my guy." And I was like, "Sure, what do you want to do?" He's like, "I'll pay you whatever it is. Just fix this guy." I was like, "Okay." So he gets on the phone with him and we go through the deal or whatever. I help him out. And he had this massive like anger issue. He used to get angry at his clients and he would blow up on them and cause all these problems. I was like, well, I can relate to that. And so I sat down and listened what he had to say. So we helped him out with his anger stuff. And he called me back about 2 weeks later and he's like, "What did you do to me?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Are you angry?" He's like, "No, but that's why I'm calling." I was like, I was driving down the road and I was in the fast lane and I was going 45 miles an hour. I said, "Okay." I was like, "What happened?" He's like, "Well, the guy in front of me was going 45." I was like, "Uh-huh. And what did you do?" He's like, "Well, I put my turn signal on. I went around him and I got in front of him and I just kept going. But I was behind him for 10 minutes. I didn't even realize it." And I said, "Okay, well, what's the problem?" I'm waiting for the punchline, right? And he's like, "Well, before I would have tried to run the guy off the road and give him the bird, and yell at him and get all pissed off." And I was like, "Well, do you want to go back and doing that?" He's like, "Well, no." He's like, "But what did you do to me?" I was like, "Well, here's the thing is what you actually do in one area of your life is going to carry over into all the other areas of your life too, right? So you might have this one thing like I did with my mom, that once I actually dealt with my mom, I was able to sit down and have a conversation with my mom, and we talked for hours, and it felt beautiful. And that's really my point of my story here is I want you guys to have some stuff like that that's for you, because I know for me, it was an absolute life changer. And I sat down with my mom, and for years, we were able to have conversations. I would have more compassion for her and stuff like that I just didn't have before because I had this pent up crap in me that was just clogging up. And the person that should be the most compassionate to anybody was my mom, out of all the stuff she's been through and all the times she had been there for me. But I couldn't at the time because I had all this crap. So I was doing the work where I got the trash out of my head. I was able to let go of that stuff and really change things between me and my mom. And I love my mom to death still. She passed away last January. But I had a lot of good years where it was actually really positive with her, after that, and really made a big difference. So
Well,
if
I'm
that
glad to
doesn't give
hear
you some
that, Daryl.
motivation for why you should be doing some stuff like this, I don't know what is. So
I'm glad to hear that, Daryl. I'm especially happy to hear that you're helping people, veterans. That's what we're doing with our veterans, get on off the stump here, but it's terrible. They're not getting the help they need, the help they deserve.
yeah, I can't agree with you more on that. I got into doing this because I went to the VA myself and tried to get help and met with a therapist and social worker and all these people, and it really wasn't helping me. I mean, I don't know what to do. And that's when I came across and I started learning the NLP side. And I came in touch with my mentor, who helped me out, and I was just like, wow. And actually, he needed help with marketing, which is ironic. And I'm like, well, I can do that in
Right.
my sleep. So So I helped him out make a bunch of money and grow his business, and he helped me by going to all his classes and workshops and everything, and became kind of his like Luke Skywalker out of the group and stuff. And he'll tell you who his best student is, and it's going to tell him it's me, you know.
Well, Daryl, I
And
want to thank you for
so
helping out veterans. There's so many suicides in that group that it's shameful. So thank you.
I appreciate that, and I also want to make it aware that not just veterans are suffering from stuff. I think I've such a more compassion for women who, I mean, there's so many women came up to me that had like been attacked by men or some kind of harassment or whatever it was that was causing issues and stuff. So PTSD, I did a documentary on this, which I actually interviewed John a while back, and it was based on like the whole concept of PTSD is not just a military thing.
Right.
It really exists across the board. If you were a rape victim, if you had some kind of, like I said, financial crisis thing that happened to you, if you got stuff broken into your house, got in a car accident, those are all just different forms of PTSD. So I think a lot of times that, oh, I know as veterans, yes, there was some stuff that actually happened in with veterans. But a lot of veterans actually went into the military that already had issues before they actually went into the military. And a lot of times guys went into the military because they have those issues. There was a military guy that actually made me a complete believer because this gentleman, and he has a video on this on the internet you can find. He had 18 medications he was taking from the VA. 18. You imagine waking up every day, you're a 25-year-old healthy guy that you have to take 18 medications just to be able to live your day. He had tried to commit suicide a few different times on some things and didn't work out, luckily. And that's about when I met him. He had a service dog that he kept with him, and he wouldn't go to the bathroom without the service dog. And in the matter of, I got him a ticket to fly out and see Tom. He worked with him in 4 hours time period. The military had kicked him out, 100% disability from the VA and the military, receiving both benefits. I'm going to fast forward a few years ago. I met with him after the fact. After a 4 hour period, he called me up. He left his dog at the house. The next weekend, he called me from Las Vegas in the middle of a bar. It was so loud I couldn't hear him. I was like, "Where are you in Vegas?" I'm just like, he lives in Washington, the state of Washington. And I was just like, "What are you doing there?" He's like, "Well, I'm on a field trip with school, right?" He had gotten two divorces and failed out two schools previous to that. And after that, he like aced all his classes. He's in a really healthy marriage right now. He just got married down in Florida. I still talk to him. But again, like ultimately changed his life. He got all the way where he had a letter from the same doctors that kicked him out of the military that said that he had a clean bill of health and he could actually reapply to come back in the military. They actually
Wow.
flew him from Washington to testify in front of Congress about this. And during that time period, within them knowing that he was actually coming and he had the letter and all these things, he is the only veteran that's ever actually done that. And they didn't want to actually put the testimonial up on Congress so it would be out to everybody to actually know this stuff really works, right? Because then they would, who's going to lose on that? Well, the pharmaceutical industry, because those
Hmm.
18 pills that he's taking every day, guess what? They're not going to be able to take those anymore, right? So I
Right.
know, Tim, you mentioned about like with medications, right? So I mean, that's a prime example of like why people take medications, just literally to numb their brain out, to get their brain to like numb out for whatever the thing is that it's just a band-aid, that you have to eventually take more and more of, and eventually there's nowhere left to go, and that's why guys turn around and commit suicide.
Well,
So
well, well, my medication's so I don't have epileptic seizures, but I know that when the depression came on, we realized that it was a side effect. They wanted me to take a drug for that, and I'm like, no, no, that doesn't end. And I've fought it for 15 years, taking a second drug for depression, knowing it's a side effect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I don't have seizures, so I'm good with that one medication.
yeah. So the reason I just wanted to share that with you guys is because how powerful this stuff is, like John's talking to you guys about, and when you sit down and you start to apply it with like some of your businesses, you're really helping people because a lot of times they've got all these preconceived like cobwebs in their head that are going on that your sales letters have to be able to navigate all that stuff, right? And people are like, oh, why can I get better conversions? I was like, this is where you get the better conversions is when you're able to communicate with people, meet them where they're at, right? The number one rule about NLP with stuff is you always have to see through that person's eyes, right? I got to see through Connie's eyes, right? I got to see through Tim's eyes. I got to see through John's eyes, how he's actually looking at whatever it is, because it's not through my eyes, right? And once I can see through their eyes and see that what they're actually looking at, then I can walk them through whatever is actually there so they no longer have to deal with whatever that problem is. And that's what
Amazing.
you're doing in your sales letters. That's what you're doing with your copy on your sales calls. You're like, well, how do I fight this objection or whatever it is? I was like, just take it one question at a time, you know. I'll leave you with one super uber cool tip on something, right? It's come out. There's a gentleman named Milton Erickson. John, have you ever studied any of his stuff? Right? I
Yeah.
love his stuff. Milton Erickson. If you get any of his stuff, I have all his books to include those four purple books. If you know what I'm talking about, John. So
I'm not a
that
big
right there is
reader.
absolute gold. I'll read in there about like how to do double binds inside of there. That like markers are talking about like it just came out yesterday, and these books are like 60 years old. You know. So the reason I'm bringing it up is because um, with Milton Erickson, one of the things that he talked about was called chunking up. Okay. Now, this is not about throwing up, right? This is about chunking up, right? So if I'm doing a chunking up episode, so Daryl, right? You like who's your favorite college sports team? I'm just going to take a guess and say Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Yeah. Okay.
They're going to
Cool.
get clobbered on Saturday.
All right. So who's your favorite team over at Michigan State?
Basketball.
The basketball team. Okay. Cool. So your favorite team is that your favorite sport?
Yes.
Cool. So it's safe to say that you love basketball.
I'm not sure I'd go that far. I don't
Mhm.
like pro sports whatsoever.
Okay. So you don't
But
like
as
pro
far
sports,
as
but
college, I watch Michigan and Michigan State, and that's about it.
okay. So you love college sports and you love basketball. Do you like football at all?
College level,
Okay.
yes.
So what we're doing right now is we're going back and forth. What I'm really doing is just chunking up and down and left and right about what
Uh-huh.
he's actually doing. So in this case, you already did it on your own, where it's like basketball and football are like the two side. We're going back and forth, but then
Right.
it's like NFL versus college, right? He's a
Hmm.
he's a college guy, right?
So he
And that's what he loves to
really likes
do.
Michigan State.
Yeah, especially likes Michigan State, right?
Right.
So what we're doing is you're
Even got
getting
the shirt.
yeah, exactly. You're getting the agreement because that's actually what he really wants, right? So you always, anytime you're getting off subject or you feel yourself getting off subject, I can always come back to, we really love Michigan State football, right? And he's gonna be like, yeah, right. So it's like, so if all of a sudden I get off base and I'm getting away from what he actually likes or whatever it is, you can always come back in your conversation to where that person really loves. Now, how is this affecting your marriage, right? It's like, well, honey, I love you, right? How many times have you used that line, right, John? So, Kathy, I love you, right? I was like, help me out over here, right? So, yeah, yeah, have that conversation of like saying whatever that is that you need to say because you got off subject and you're in the doghouse, right? It's always like going back to that area of like, well, I love you, honey, and I'll do anything for you. And they're like, well, you're now chunking back up to like why we got together in the first place, right? So again, it's like you can chunk down on things and get really granular, but you can also chunk up to really get agreement on whatever the subject is or whatever it is you guys are concentrating on and
Okay.
working on. So does it make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So
Good.
just some tips.
Now,
So
can I add just one thing?
sure.
Because we can't be serious all the time. In July, my wife and I were married 48 years. I mentioned
Congratulations.
that to somebody, and they say, well, congratulations. And I said, but then I follow up with, I knew I was in trouble when I said I do, and she said, you better.
So
That's
true.
it.
Lucky man. So
I am.
congratulations.
Well, I know Mary had her hand up and then Ahmed, and then I'm gonna wrap up. If you can stay, Daryl, I got one more for you that I can close the loop on, and then we'll be good for today. So, Mary, go ahead.
Um, First, I wanted to just say thanks to Daryl. This stuff is really so interesting. Um, but I just had a question about the AIO versus what you were talking about earlier
Okay.
today. Are they the same?
They're not the same. AIO Dominator is a suite of GPT tools to do a lot of in-depth optimization. It's really like brute horsepower. The
And
Optimancer,
that's all manual, done
that's all,
manually?
yes, it will do all the
Okay.
work for you, but then you have to go plug it in and all of that. So that's all. It's a helper tool to build all the files and stuff that you need for optimization. The Optimancer basically is a prospecting tool that will solve the three biggest issues completely automated in WordPress sites. So that's a different program.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Amid, go ahead.
This has been an amazing off the beaten path session that really kind of encapsulated. Daryl, I wanna say personally, thank you so much because it really you crossed the T's and dotted the I's, how this whole intricate world of ACT slash NLP slash marketing slash sales on stage and one-on-one as well as groups really are all coming together, and it's all stems from the NLP. It really twisted and tweaked in many different ways. And thank you for enlightening me on that because I didn't realize all those intertwinement happening until this minute. And I've been at this for 10 years roughly. So thank you so much.
You
And
never,
that's what I really, really wanted to express.
you never know where any of these calls are going to go. None of this was planned. It's just,
This has been phenomenal for me personally because it's an eye opener to see how what I have been doing for the last 10 years roughly. And there's hindsight is always 2020, and I wish I could have started this a lot sooner. But that's okay. I don't regret anything in the past because that's what made me today the way I am. But I'm discovering as I go forward, there's a lot more I need to do with the past to clean up the slates. And I have been doing a lot of that for the last 10 years in different manners. And I'm realizing there's a lot more to clean up to be in my the best version of myself. So thank you.
cool. All right. So I got the two. I'm gonna close the loops, or actually one loop with Daryl, and then I'll hit back to you, Kevin, and then we'll wrap up. But Daryl, as you're talking about, the all the Marines that need assistance, I remember I heard this from you, I don't know how many years ago, probably 10 years ago when we did the toy drive.
That was so cool.
And I reached out to Daryl and I said, "Hey, I want to help. What can I do?" And he said, "We're doing a toy drive. We need help." And I went to work on it. And we got so many toys when they came out to pick up the toys from my house. The guy called in on a walkie-talkie and he said, "Hey," he goes, "we got a problem. This guy's got a lot of toys. We need a semi van." So they actually sent a semi out with, I think it was three dress blue Marines to
Yep.
to meet with me and thank me and all that. And they're like, "What do you do? Like, the major corporations in Orange County didn't drive this many toys. What do you do?" And, and I said, "Well, I put out to my group that whoever donated the most toys or the most money to this event, that I would give them me for a day private consulting for the entire day." And it was a competition, and people were just flooding in donating to get that. And I had three guys that were absolutely driving me nuts because they were calling me every half hour. "Am I in the lead? Am I in the lead?" And I finally just said, all right, if you guys donate X amount, I don't even remember what it was. I'll give it to all three of you. And they did. They just cut the checks. So it was really cool. So yeah, we should probably do that
We should
again.
definitely do that again.
Got December coming up, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to do that if you want.
Yeah, John did that several times over the years. I remember the Marines were just floored. I mean, you got to realize these guys don't have formula for their kids. I mean, some of these guys are just living on paycheck to paycheck, and they couldn't imagine the stuff that actually came in. They're just like it was like they talk about it for years. So um, yeah. So I that's one of the things I love about John is how his abilities to kind of get back in unique ways. But yeah, we do like maybe some kind of contest, John, again, and doing it by I think November is a good month to kind of do that. And the way it works too, and you could do this inside your own communities too, even as you're thinking about this to work with employers out there. I mean, take the concept that John's got there and go to maybe some of the people you guys are working with and like look at it that way, and you might have, 10 people to do that with. It's like, hey, let's do this toy drive. We got this because you guys are seeing Toys for Tots. You ever seen those things by like, yeah. So that's what we're talking about. It's like Toys for Tots. And you go each reserve unit that's out there in the Marine Corps. There's about 30,000 Marines out there in the reserves, roughly 20, 30,000 at a given time. And they all do toy drives in their local areas. And if you just go look up on the internet, it's pretty find the closest Marine Reserve units close to you. They're the ones responsible for kind of putting that on and getting the toys down to the base and all that kind of stuff. So it's just contacting one of them and you get in good and do one thing good and all of a sudden you got more customers, more people know who you are, just doing good PR, all that kind of stuff. And that's actually, John, one of the things that ChatGPT actually looks for when you're doing stuff. I've been doing some research on this is like, why do I want to rank John in front of somebody else? Well, there could be everything the same, but then John does this thing with Toys for Tots, and that puts him ahead of somebody else. And I'm not saying to do it because of that, but I'm letting you know, like that's how ChatGPT is actually thinking. It's not thinking like Google. It's thinking like differently. So that's pretty cool. So
Yeah. All right, well, cool. Now for my big one here, my question for you, Daryl, is have you ever been timelining with someone and actually jumped the line,
when you say jump the line, what do you mean?
entered their timeline? Like literally, physically entered their timeline and could see the things in their past.
Yeah, yeah,
That's happened because I had that happen, and I'm
that
like,
happened to me once. Yeah, yeah,
kind of, it was interesting. I'm like, I didn't
yeah.
know that was
They
possible.
they didn't know I was there. So I went back with a gentleman. It was actually a past generational life that he had, to make it more interesting. And he was the son of a higher up general that was like in the Japanese military, and then his mom was like very high up in the political spectrum of Japan or whatever. And he was wandering around his streets of his house trying to find, and it was just everything was destroyed. And where his parents were at, he never saw his parents again. They were gone. They're dead. But he had to heal things from then that actually, helped him out in this lifetime. So, and
Yeah,
I remember I could see it still in my head. It's still visible. So,
yeah. I know
uh,
when it was happening, when it was actually happening, I didn't make myself aware either. It
mhm.
was later after we came out, I started asking some questions, and they were like, "Yeah, how do you know that?"
Yeah, I didn't I asked him about the event and he told me exactly what I actually had already knew and saw. And I didn't tell him that I was actually able to see that because I didn't want to freak him out. So
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was fascinating. I had no idea that
that
was.
doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot to me. So
Wow, that's cool. Very cool stuff. All right. Well, Kevin and Ahmed, and then we'll wrap her up.
Okay, I'll be real brief. Great session today, and hats off to Daryl. Thanks for sharing. John, I was at the Yachtbot workshop. We talked a little bit during the workshop about some potential dates next month. Have you had a chance to
Yes,
look at that email?
I looked at the email. I haven't had a chance really. I just got back home, so
Oh,
I'll
okay.
do that this afternoon. I'll
All
get
righty.
I'll get back to you this afternoon and figure.
Awesome. That was it. Thank you.
How was the experience from the virtual? Was it, I know it couldn't have been as good as like being there.
No, no, I've got to watch at least twice the recordings, and I do appreciate you getting those recordings. You said during the workshop that you would have those done, and sure enough, I think you sent them later that night.
Yeah, it was
So
that night.
thank you. So I'll obviously it would have been better to be there in person, but the next best thing is reviewing the recording. So thank you for that.
I just wanted to make sure that you got enough out of it to make that worthwhile.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Cool. All right. And Amid.
One more question, Daryl. Sorry, John. This
Oh,
is
no worries.
what is the difference between the timeline, which I think in my own mind, I think I know the answer, but and a regression where you are straddling both past and future at the same time? Because the reason I'm asking you that question is I had a session, it's called regression, where they took me back literally to my part of my early childhood, if you will. But then my coach at the time, when he did that, he goes, but for some reason you end up being on more of the present and future time. And I was seeing you in all the spaces, crisscrossing at the same time. So what does that mean? I still haven't figured that out.
What is your question exactly?
So when somebody tells you, I saw you in the past and the current, like as if this event is happening both times.
So
is that that's my
was
question.
that you? Were they telling you?
I was
that?
under.
Were they telling you that, or did
They
tell you
told
that?
me that after the session was over.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up the little diagram again.
Sorry, John.
No worries.
Because that kind of your question kind of triggered this question actually too.
That's okay. So what I'll do as well is like when I bring somebody back here, right? And the thing is doing this process is a do with process. It's not a do to process. Okay. So like this is you doing it. You're going to do everything on your own free will. I'm not forcing you to do anything. You're making a decision whether you want to do it or not.
Right.
Some people say it's like, oh, you're going to make me bark like a chicken or whatever, flock. And I'm just like, no, that's not how this works. So, but when you come back here and you're looking at this event, right, as you're able to like combine time a little bit. So you're basically like you got this event that's here and this future event, right? So when all of a sudden you can actually just shorten the time with all that. Does that make sense? So
yes, it does. Yes,
yeah,
it does.
so you could see yourself right now. So do you guys want to do one of these real quick? Do you want to experience this? Okay. John, do you mind if I do this real quick?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Permission. Okay. So go ahead and I want you guys to this will be fun. We're going to do a fun thing, okay? So I want you guys to think about a time that you were grateful in your life. Okay, and just take a nice deep breath. Just sit back in your chair, wherever you're at. And you can play along or not play along, but if you want to get the benefit of it, you'll go ahead and follow exactly what I'm letting you, know right now. So go ahead, Amit, go and lean back in your chair. Okay, and this will just take a couple minutes here. So go ahead and close your eyes, first of all. And I want you to now just see yourself in like Happy Gilmore, that movie talks about like his happy place, right? Maybe you're watching a Michigan State football game and they're winning and they're beating Michigan, right? Maybe that's your happy place, right? Maybe I'm at the Army Navy game and we're winning and we're beating Army, right? Wherever your happy place, maybe you're with your kids, maybe it's that happy place. That's first time you held your child for the first time, right? Whatever that is for you, just kind of go back to wherever that place is. Everybody's got a unique places there. And I want you to do is take a nice deep breath And I want you to place that right out in front of you right now. Okay. So you can actually see it and hold it up in front of you. So it's like a picture frame. Okay. So you got this picture of what it is, and go ahead and make it a little bit bigger, right? And go ahead and stretch it out a little bit more. So it's just big enough now. It's light as a feather. You're seeing all the things with the picture. And in a second here, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and jump into that picture, but not yet, okay? So as you're looking at that picture, I want you to create it in color. You can see all the things that are going on, just like if you're watching a movie. You can hear the things coming out of it, just like it's a TV set. You know exactly what it took to actually get into that moment, whatever it is, whatever that event was that led up to that, that actually, it hasn't actually happened yet, right? This event hasn't happened yet. It's about to happen. You're about to actually happen in the event. And on the count of three, I want you to just jump into that event. On the count of three, one, two, three, just go ahead and jump into that event. I want you to take a nice deep breath, exactly where you're at with that event, kind of feel what the emotions are with that event. Just kind of breathe those in and just blow out anything right now that's no longer serving you or that you need to carry with you anymore. So go ahead and just let that stuff go. Just kind of breathe that out. Just letting that stuff go. I want you to breathe in that event one more time. Breathe it all into your lungs. And the count of three, I want you to jump out of the vent. Now you're out of the event and it's in front of you. I want you to take that event and I want you to kind of shrink it down to like a size of a bracelet that's going to fit on your hands. Okay, now it's in a bracelet. And I want you to grab that event. And I want you to take that and put it on your left wrist, kind of like where your watch would be or something like that, right? Just take that bracelet and go and just put it down on your wrist that's there. Okay. Now take a nice deep breath. I want you to hold that bracelet one more time and just feel those emotions. And when you're ready, you can just let go of that bracelet and just come back to where you're at right now and just go ahead and open your eyes. All right. So it would be kind of fun to hear where you guys went, where your happy place is. It's always a fun thing to talk about. Daryl, I'm really interested for you. So where you got to unmute yourself. So
You don't
there you
even
go.
want to know where I went.
I went to the birth of my daughter.
Awesome. Awesome. And then John, you went on your boat. What?
You don't even want to know where I went.
Okay, we won't go there. Anybody else care to share?
I went to the birth of my son who has Down syndrome. And the moment that my mom was negative after his birth, but it pissed me off actually for 33 years now that I think about it. And that is gone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mary? I think she's trying to unmute herself. There she is.
I went to my favorite beach where
Awesome.
I'd spent the last 60 years of my life.
That's awesome. So I wanted to share with you guys just a technique where you're using an anchoring technique. So if you find yourself and you get a bad state of mind, all you got to do is just close your eyes and just grab your left wrist, okay? So just go ahead and practice that right now, right? Go ahead and close your eyes, take a nice deep breath, and just grab your left wrist exactly where you left that memory at. And now breathe that memory back in. And we're all in those happy places now. So if you find yourself getting off track, right? You can just easily go back to this place. Go ahead and just all come back in the room with us, right? And what we're doing is you're giving yourself like an anchor point. Now, there's going to be times in business and life that shit's going to hit the fan. You're going to get off course. We have a thing in the Marine Corps. You say, the plan doesn't survive the first contact. The Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face, right? You've all heard that, right? So when that does happen, right, you now have an anchor point you can go back to get yourself recentered, okay, to get yourself rebalanced on, like, okay. And when you do that, right, and I'm going to teach you something here too. This is kind of fun. is when you're using what's called a pattern interrupt with people, right? Is when you ask them a question that all of a sudden they're just fired up about whatever it is, and you just ask them a question that's so completely off the subject. They're like, "What?" And it's just totally like, well, just confuse the brain about like why they were upset about whatever it was in the first place, right? And like a lot of times somebody's all fired up or whatever it is, and then you can ask them a question that's kind of a little bit off subject, but still kind of on subject, and all of a sudden they're just like, wow, they forget why they were upset in the first place, you know? And then you go back to that place. So like, where was that place you really loved on your honeymoon? And they're like, oh, and they start thinking about their honeymoon. Well, in the place of love, right? There's no place for hate. There's no place for sadness. There's no place for anxiety. There's no place for all those things, right? Because guess what? Like that's a strategy now. You can move forward for the rest of your life and you're going to hold on to this. Whether you never show up to another call again with us, right? Because we're going to do a lot of these calls, right? Whether you never show up, this is just one technique out of many that we'll go through and teach you guys like over the years. That when you anchor that moment, whatever it is, right? Then that will stay with you for the rest of the time. So anytime, like I said, you feel yourself, you're getting off base, right? Just go back to that place and just allow that. For me, it's my daughter when I first hold her, like a little football on my arm for the first time ever. And I look at my daughter in the eyes and I'm like, wow, like, like that to me. So I completely relate to what you were talking about with your holding your first kids and stuff. So John, back over to you, buddy.
All right. Well, that's it.
Thank you.
That's it. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, that's
Great stuff.
totally unexpected. You never know where any of these calls are going to go. They're totally unscripted.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anybody else before we wrap up?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. It is such a powerful tool, and your subconscious is even more powerful. And when it gets captured and harnessed in a way that takes away the anxiety and the fear, it is such an incredible breakthrough. I can share with you that a couple of years ago, I was going back to speak on Suzanne Evans' stage, and she's got 600 people in the audience, and I was terrified out of my freaking mind. And I'm a performer. I've been a performer for a greater part of my life, and fear goes away when you are really well rehearsed. And I know this. But as far as well rehearsed as I was, as well as I knew my product, as well prepared as I was, the actual idea of stepping on the stage made me nauseous. And I'm used to working with anxiety because anxiety in performance is really a good thing. But John did something kind of magical, and I still don't have any freaking idea what he did to me. But I saw him just before I left on a flight. I left the next day, got on that plane, and something literally anchored and triggered and wiped out the anxiety. Now, I had a choice that I could sit in the hotel room as opposed to going into the studio. And because it didn't make any difference if I was there or if I wasn't there. I'm like, no, I didn't come here to sit in a hotel room. I am coming to speak to this group. And that fear was gone. I still to this day don't know what it was, John, but it was such a revelation that our mind and our mindset can really hold us back and trigger us in ways that really are not for our better. And the fear and the anxiety about it is gone. In fact, I look for every opportunity to speak on a stage now. So that's done. That's over with.
I just pre-framed you with no fear in the frame. I put you there before you got there without the fear.
Well, there was definitely no fear. So it works. It's real. It's definitely real. And one other thing that I will say, thank you, Gerald, for saying this about PTSD. I lost my home to a fire in January, and I spent almost 30 years building the equity in that home, which is now gone. And I am doing a lot of things to help other people, which is part of my recovery in this process. But something triggered me a couple of weeks ago, and it took me to such a dark place that talk about needing to self-medicate. I was like, I was not good for human consumption. It was a terrible place for me to be. It was so dark and deep, and it took, I know and very well understand the necessity of anchoring and pulling yourself out of things, but thankfully for the help and support of friends around me, but allowing that anxiety and that feeling, because what it did is it took me right back to something I have no control over. And the anxiety, the overwhelm, the loss was like I was living it all over again. And I'm looking forward to that being released. But that PTSD is real, and I didn't have to go to war to do that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I could share with you a quick story that might be helpful, John, if you it's okay. So I have actually experienced something. I didn't lose my house. I lost my family. And, I fought for the country. I came back, did all the things. All I wanted to do was raise kids. I had three kids at the time, a 5, a 4, and a 2-year-old. And I unfortunately had an unfaithful wife. And we ended up actually parting ways because of it. And during that time, it was such a dark time. And doing this type of work I'm doing here is what actually brought me out of that, dark place and that nosedive. And the trigger, though, why it was such a dark time was because when I was a child, the same thing had happened to me when I was like 9 years old, and that's when I went into a really dark place and without actually realizing, and I just went into fight or flight mode. I remember seeing my dad's stuff being thrown out the window and hearing my mom yelling. And normally, my mom was yelling, it was for me to actually come home for dinner. And I was like, I always hear my name where I was at in the neighborhood. I don't know if you guys are, that was back before cell phones and all this stuff and geo trackers that people put on their kids. And she's yelling out the front steps usually. So I knew that wasn't the case. And I went home and I picked up all my dad's stuff and I put it on the sidewalk. And it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was still light out in the middle of summer. And I got on my bike and I rode out into the woods. And I used to play Marine in the woods and stuff like that. And go figure, I became a Marine one day, right? And this is where some of the stuff actually comes from, always having that kind of defender mentality. And I hid out in the woods and I was out there for about 6 hours. I didn't come home for 6 hours. I could hear my mom screaming for me to come out in the woods. My brother was screaming for me to come out of the woods, but I wasn't going to come out of the woods. I was just hiding and they're not going to find me. If I don't want to be found in the woods, you're not going to find me. And the point of the story is like I was just traumatized, you know. But what happens is when later on in life, when a similar event actually happened to me over again, the trauma that never actually got dealt with as that 9-year-old kid, all of a sudden it just like combines, you know. So it's a lot more than we are actually experiencing. So the trauma, once you go back and do like the timeline, like I just showed you on the screen, if we were to go back and work on that here, that original event, all of a sudden this event wouldn't really have the same effect on you anymore at all. It wouldn't have a hold on you anymore. Right. And that's what happened with me. So once I was able to work through this stuff that was back here, then that folded like a domino and all the dominoes basically fell. And then the event I was dealing with at the time, people were asking me like, how are you dealing with this stuff and not be able to do that? I was like, NLP. Right. They're like, what's that? And I wasn't doing this as a career. I was doing it for myself. I was like 2012 and all this stuff happened. Right. I didn't professionally take on a client for like 3 years. And I wasn't trying to take on clients. Like I had people. Then this guy called me up one day. I kid you not, John. I just flew back from Russell Brunson's like mastermind, and where I was trying to learn how to do marketing about some lead generation. And this guy calls me up because he had one conversation with me, and he's like, hey. I was like, it's like he started talking to me, and he's like, well, how much? And I was like, how much for what? He's like, how much to help me? I was like, well, what do you want me to do? He's like, I want you to help me get through all this crap. I was like, I can't do this on my own. And this is when I was back. I was a terrible salesperson, remember? So, and he goes, okay, and I'm like, I don't know. And I just blurted out some numbers, and he's like, here's my credit card. I'm like, this really happened. And I kid you not, the day before, I was sitting with my friend on Friday night, and I helped him out over some crazy stuff out of his life. And this guy in one session went through letting go of like why he got divorced, why he became an alcoholic, why he got involved with and here's some of the black magic with this stuff. Why he actually got addicted to drugs, alcohol, why had money issues, all the things, because he had this massive like self-worth issue all the way back to when he was 2 years old. He had been molested in his garage and he never actually knew from his neighbor. And it wasn't until the work I did with him that I was able to come out and he was able to release the emotions of that. And the only reason I knew that was because when I got done, he told me, he's like, listen, I have to tell you what I actually just experienced and what I went through and released because you have to do this for a living. And I was like, listen, I'm not the guy in the chair. He's like, no, you're the guy in the chair. You need to be working with people. And I was like, really? You think so? And he's like, yeah, this is why. He's like, I'm telling you. And he was a grown ass man. He told me the whole story. And I was just like, holy shit. I was like, that really happened. He's like, yeah. And he's like, I never knew that before. Because when you do NLP with somebody, when they really know what they're doing, they never ask you about your personal story behind whatever it is, right? If you want to share stuff after the fact, you can. But as you're going through doing the work around the emotions and stuff, it's always best not to actually get into the story yourself, right? That's the trick behind doing it, is because when you look at things from an objective perspective, you're not actually in the actual event itself, you're looking at it objectively, then you're able to make these kind of shifts for yourself, right? And you're able to move past it in a matter of like seconds versus like people could be in therapy for 20 years for the same thing and not understand why, So I'll leave you with that, as a story. So if you're ready to let go of whatever that is, you got my contact information in there to set up a time. I'll be happy to help you.
Daryl's awesome. I remember when I was doing that ACT program, it was the first time I'd actually done it live, on stage. And I was asking him, I called him up. I said, hey, how do I get people to actually get what I'm saying? And he's like, let me just come out and do it for you. He hopped on a plane. He was there the next day for the opening of remember that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So yeah,
That was pretty
an
cool.
excuse to hang out with John. I'm all about it. You guys have no idea like what you have at your disposal. This guy's one of the smartest guys on the planet when it comes to marketing and doing all this. If you just follow what he says, like literally, and just like step one is this, step two is this, and just do what he's saying, like you will make money. It's I've got a call with a yacht guy tomorrow. I told you about the yacht guy, so that's tomorrow. That guy was chasing me this past week to have a meeting with me. So, and I'll be using the Gen Spark thing. I'm setting up the AI thing to show him all the stuff, whatever it is. But again, like their clients are out there, guys. They need your help. People need what you have. There's so many business owners who are just going out of business right now because they don't have what it is you guys actually know. So it's like you're doing them a favor by giving phone calls to them. I'll leave you with this one last story because this is a story that'll help unlock the money on the end of that phone for you guys. This gentleman who he literally went to me and he said, I don't understand why I have a problem with my customers. And I said, okay, well, let's do some deep dive on that, right? So we do the deep dive and we come out of it. He's like, holy cow, I never realized all that stuff. So when he was a child, the phone would ring at dinner time, and his dad and his mom would get all pissed off at him. You tell him to hang up the phone, don't want to deal with it. So you just get the phone hanging up. Anybody remember a phone being on a wall, right? And the phone would ring, and then you have to just get up and hang it up. It's not like a button you just push on your phone or whatever, right? So, and the whole thing, it was creditors that were calling, right? So in his subconscious mind had latched on to like, I don't call my customers because if I do, they get pissed off at me and they're going to hang up on me. So I helped him unlock, his brain. So by the time we came back and a few weeks later in the mastermind for Russell's mastermind, he's like, this is the guy that literally at the last mastermind, which is 90 days, every 90 days. So he stands up and he's like, I hate customers. I never want to talk to them again. I don't want any customers. And like, so 9 days later, he gets up and he says, I love customers. He's like, I'm calling them all the time, all these things. I just brought in $30,000 from people, and all I did was call them, and they were shocked I was actually calling them. It'd be like if John called you on your personal cell phone, and he's like, hey, Daryl, how can I help you today? I'm like, holy shit, it's John Limbacher, right? I mean, this guy's like a celebrity, right? So he turns around, and he calls all these people, and they just started just, hey, can I just pay you? He's like, sure. And the guy needed money because he had subconsciously sabotaged his business with getting rid of all his customers. So what I'm trying to share with you here, guys, if I didn't already do it, is these people out there need your help. They need the services. Everything John's telling you, it works. Just go put it in action. Pick up the phone, call somebody. Think about this. Think about, and this is how I look at it this way. There's somebody right now that's literally they're having to sell their house, right? They're having to tell their kid no, they can't go do whatever that thing is, right? They're not be able to take their wife or spouse on a vacation because guess what? They don't have enough money, right? They're doing all those things. Their health is all screwed up in their head because they're stressed out about work. There's possibly guys out there committing suicide because they don't have enough money for their kids at home and their wife and all this stuff. There's people out there that they're not going to have enough money this Christmas to buy their siblings and their kids and their wives like the things they actually want or whatever it is. Maybe that's why you should make phone calls, right? And reach out to these people because those people out right now, they're crying in their shower. They don't know how to get business. They're like consumed by all this stuff. And here you are calling them and says, "Hey, Mr. Smith, would you like more business?" You know, and Mr. Smith is gonna be like, "Yes, I would like more customers. Thank you." Right? It's really just that simple, guys. So go out there, just call some people and say, "Hey, do you want some more customers?" They're like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, well, let me show you some ways so I can help you get some more customers." John, is that about right?
Yeah, I mean, I had that conversation with Linda on her landing page this morning. The message. It's like, what do they really want? For her, it was like they wanted their name on a commission check. So we kind of blew all of her messaging apart with the truth of the matter is that's all they really wanted.
Thank God, because now I'm not going to get ghosted.
So, but yeah, good stuff. Daryl put his info in the chat. If any of you guys want direct access to him, he's awesome. I don't know when we met. It was probably around 2010.
Yeah, it was at that event. It was the John, it was the traffic and conversion event that John got up and spoke at. And I remember like just asking some questions or meeting briefly there. And then Ryan Dice had the was it Rank Mogul, right? Your first course that came out.
Yeah,
So these guys made a course for John to put out. And then John, of course, had all the content and everything, but they worked together, came out with it. And I bought into the course and I was in there for years, you know, learning that stuff. And I took all the things that John had told me then, and I literally went out and just dominated in the hearing aid niche, right? And we had all these websites. I had the first page on Google of every single thing. If you search my client and their city was their hearing aid information, you know, and they just blew the doors off that. And so that was, I don't want to say some of the easiest money I've ever made doing stuff, but it wasn't hard. So it's a lot easier getting shot at, that's for sure. So.
Awesome. Well, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up now, but thanks again, Daryl. That was awesome. That was good stuff. So we'll be back next week, regular time, and these calls just keep getting better. I don't know what we're going to do next week to be any better, but
We got to keep John around, guys. We got to keep showing back up.
the last 10 weeks it's just they keep getting better and better and better. So anyway, we'll see you next week and have a great week.
See you, everybody.